The following program is produced by the AM First Radio Network and distributed by Global American Broadcasting, the GAB Radio Network.
Thank you for tuning in for this edition of Justice Watch with Attorney Zulu Ali. I am Attorney Zulu Ali with the Justice Watch crew, Rosa Nunez, Michael Bilal Clark, Dr. Akil Bashir, Andrew Rodeman, and the real Mariah. And so this week, like every week, we'll be talking about critical legal and social justice issues that are impacting our community. And today we'll be talking about the Capitol insurrection hearings that took place last week. And we'll talk a little bit about, how that impacts the criminal justice system. I think I'll begin by, at first I was going to talk about or begin the program by giving everybody kind of a setup as to really what took place. And so back on September the 29th of 2020, during the presidential debates, Trump states, "Proud Boys stand back and stand by," right? This is September the 29th. On November the 3rd, of course, we had the election, and then on November the 9th, this organization or these Oath Keepers member, Jessica Watkins, sends text messages inviting people to the Oath Keepers basic training in Ohio. And one message says, "I need you fighting fit by inauguration." November the 14th, over 10,000 people gathered in Freedom Plaza for the Million MAGA March in support of Trump's election fraud claims. Several things go on, and we go into December the 12th when the Proud Boys march through Freedom Plaza in Washington, D.C. in advance of the pro-Trump rally scheduled later in the day. And there was violent clashes throughout the day between Proud Boys and counter-protesters, which led to 33 arrests, including for assault on a police officer. And that night, Proud Boy members vandalized 4 churches and burned a Black Lives Matter banner. So then we go to December the 11th. Biden wins the electoral vote. In December the 16th, the National Council of the Three Percenters original group, one of the largest 3%er militias, issues a statement alleging that there was widespread fraud perpetrated against the American people. So then we move into December the 30th. On January the 6th, President Trump, or former President Trump, again announces the date of the January the 6th rally on Twitter. And then on January the 1st, Trump tweets the date and time of the January the 6th rally. He then retweets a supporter who wrote, "The cavalry is coming, Mr. President." January the 6th, Washington, D.C., to which Trump responds, "A great honor." Then on January the 2nd, 13 U.S. senators, including Ted Cruz and Josh Hawley, along with 100 Republican members of the House, vowed to object to the election certification. On January the 3rd, Trump orders recently appointed Secretary of Defense Christopher C. Miller to do whatever was necessary to protect the demonstrators on January the 6th. And on that same date, an internal Capitol Police intelligence report warns that enraged protesters flanked by white supremacists and extreme militia groups are likely to arrive in Washington, D.C., armed for battle and target Congress on January the 6th. January the 4th, Proud Boys leader Enrique Tarrio is arrested in D.C. and charged for burning a Black Lives Matter banner on December the 12th and possession of 2 high-capacity firearm magazines that were in his possession at the time of his arrest. You got Secretary of Defense Miller issued orders which prohibited deploying DC Guard members with weapons, helmets, body armor, or riot control agents without his personal approval. And then on January the 5th, a rally is held at Freedom Plaza near the White House to protest the certification of votes making Joe Biden the president of the United States. The protest consists of a series of speakers and rallies. The first rally was the March to Save America, Stop the Seal, and the 80% coalition spoke from 5 to 8:30 p.m. It went on into the evening. Then on January the 6th, you had Trump, who gave a 1-hour speech encouraging protesters to march to the U.S. Capitol. And the Capitol responded to reports of an explosive device later identified as a pipe bomb. 19 minutes before Trump ended his speech, rioters overran the perimeter of the Capitol building, and Capitol officers inside the Speaker's lobby adjacent to the House chambers shot and fatally wounded a riot as she climbed through a broken window of a barricaded door. Minutes later, the governor of Virginia activated all available assets of the state of Virginia, including the Virginia National Guard, to aid the U.S. Capitol. So there was a lot going on, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Then last week we have these hearings, and in these hearings, 4 police officers testified about the physical and verbal assaults they faced responding to the January the 6th riot at the U.S. Capitol. It includes 4 officers: Harry Dunn, Aquilino Ganell, Michael Fanone, and Daniel Hodges. Each gave opening statements and answered questions from the committee. Then the DC Metro Police Officer Fanone described his experience heading to the Capitol on January the 6th to assist in the Capitol Police. He said the scene he found as he worked his way to the Capitol's west front, where thousands of rioters were violently clashing with police, was nothing short of brutal. Fanone decried those in Congress who are downplaying or outright denying what happened. So, a lot more to that. I mean, they basically, what the takeaway that you're going to get from it is they believe, and I think that Harry Dunn best described it. He said they literally were there to stop the steal. He said, using a phrase former President Donald Trump and his supporters invoked to falsely claim the 2020 election results were illegitimate. He said, if a hitman is hired and he kills somebody, the hitman goes to jail. He told a panel, not only does the hitman go to jail, but the person who hired them does.
Mm-hmm.
There was an attack carried out on January the 6th, and someone sent them. I want you to get to the bottom of that. So here we go. This is classic hypocrisy, right? The double standard of how we treat law enforcement personnel and how we treat people who break the law. I mean, clearly you had these, I mean, it was just unreal what happened. And I know that Officer Dunn talked about how they used the N-word and told him, put down the gun because I'm going to really show you how much of an N you really are.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And what's ironic is how, we have this double standard when we think of patriotism. When, these individuals were, for all practical purposes, were anything but patriotic. These individuals were just basically also, as described by one of the officers, these were just terrorists. These were individuals who went to the Capitol to, commit a crime against the government. The same thing they said that they stand for. They said that they stand for law enforcement and they stand for military personnel or people who serve the country. The same people who talked about Colin Kaepernick and what he did by taking the knee, these same individuals are, they're just hypocrites. I mean, that's really what they are. And what is amazing is how we continue to try to somehow figure out things. In other words, what is the takeaway? What do you get from this? I mean, basically, you're going to respond to this in one of two ways. And I say there's 3 ways. One is, are you just, you can just sit back and kind of be satisfied and expect that, hey, is this the way that that this is the way things are? It's the American way, right? or you can be unsatisfied and you can ask for more, right? And so they believe when you're asking for more, you're asking for more than you deserve. But I believe that really the takeaway from this is that we really have to understand it's time for us to wake up and really understand the type of people that we're dealing with in this country. We're dealing with people in this country that I honestly believe, and this is my belief, these people are not unwilling, but I don't think they're even capable of understanding how diabolical they are as human beings. They are just, at some point in time, you have to say some people are just bad human beings. If you were doing what you did, going to the Capitol and what they did, I mean, there's nothing to justify it. These are just bad human beings. And anyone who supports what they did are just bad human beings. I mean, that's really what it boils down to. And they're not patriots. These individuals are just criminals. They're just basically terrorists. And in fact, probably, when we go back and we think about 9/11 and we think about those individuals, these are the same type of diabolical minds that would kill people, that would sit up there and go to the Capitol and do the things that they're doing. And we have to, at some point in time, in order for us to progress as people, we have to, at some point in time, realize what we're really dealing with, who these people really are. And in order for us to go forward and to try to figure out what the strategies that we're going to use, we have to, call an ace and a spade a spade. Mm-hmm. And basically, these are just diabolical people who are evil. These are just evil people. And so how do you deal with that? I mean, that's what we're going to talk about on the other side of the break. Please do not touch that down. We'll be back for Justice Watch.
Got to get back. Need some get back.
Do you have a great idea for a radio show but have no idea where to start? Or have you been hosting a podcast for a while and want to take it to the next level? If so, you need the Gab Radio Network. To host a show on the Gab Radio Network, all you need is your voice, and we'll handle the rest. From technical engineering to full-service audio production and much more. Every show on the Gab Radio Network can be heard on our station on the TuneIn Radio app. Plus, we put all of our shows on our satellite, which is accessed by over 5,500 stations. And here's the best part. You can host from anywhere you want. There are many means to connect to the Gab Radio Network remotely, and our staff of highly trained engineers and producers will make you sound like you're right here in studio. So, if you want to be on the Gab Radio Network, the same network that hosts the Small Business Advocate, Radio MD, and The Federalist, send an email right now to sales@gabradionetwork.com. That's sales@gabradionetwork.com.
New Beam Pictures presents a CCM Films production documentary entitled Purpose and Freedom. Keep your hand on the plow. This emotional and strong documentary tells the story of African-American lawyer Zulu Ali seeking justice and his purpose as a lawyer while crossing paths with Araceli, an undocumented immigrant from Mexico who is seeking her freedom. Together, they help discover their purpose and freedom in each other. Watch this incredible film today from iTunes Movies, YouTube Movies, Amazon Prime, and Google Play Movies. Learn about the cast and crew, links to purchase, and more at purposeandfreedommovie.com. Purpose and Freedom. Keep your hand on the plow. Available now. Rated G.
I did not feel safe. That's why I decided to come to California, because I didn't feel safe in Mexico.
It's kind of like the system, and if you go outside the system, then it becomes a struggle.
Are you an immigrant seeking defense representation and are looking to protect your rights? Or maybe someone who is experiencing an injustice or discrimination and need a lawyer you can trust? Well, that's exactly why you need the help of award-winning trial lawyer Zulu Ali. The law offices of Zulu Ali provides immigration defense representation for those seeking justice and looking to protect their rights. If you or a loved one needs professional legal advice and representation, then contact Zulu Ali. Zulu Ali's firm focuses on criminal law, family law, civil and personal injury, and international law. Zulu Ali is a former police officer and U.S. Marine, so you know you're in good hands, serving all of California and immigration cases nationwide, representing victims and suspects at the International Criminal Court at The Hague. Call Zulu Ali today at 888-682-3049 or visit ZuluAliLaw.com.
Welcome back to Justice Watch with attorney Zulu Ali and the Justice Watch crew, where we're continuing with our discussion on the Capitol insurrection. Now, one of the things that, that came to mind over the past, couple of weeks, I was actually engaged in a trial over the past week or so. And one of the things that I was trying to, point out to those who were listening to me as I'm arguing this case is I tried to make people understand the whole idea of the differences in reality in our country, and that this reality dictates the kind of narrative that we have as people. In other words, what is your truth and my truth are not the same. And there's nothing that's going to change my truth from your truth. The only thing that's going to change, that's going to help us progress as a society, is to understand and acknowledge what type of society that we live in. And the type of society that we live in is a society that basically has a significant group of individuals who are just diabolical and bad people. They're not capable of being good, the goodness that we want to portray when we talk about the greatness of our society. That's not what's important to them. What's important to them is their culture. Their culture is more important. When they're talking about America, clearly there is a significant group of individuals in this country, when they talk about, the rights and the greatness of America, it only applies to certain people, to them. And that's a great number of people. And this is a great point of the justice system. And one of the things that I wanted to talk about, because I know, there's a lot of implications about this, as well as what we were talking about last week. And one of the things that I wanted to point out is that now you've seen how the system is treating this situation based upon the racial, the racial makeup of the individuals that are involved in this particular case. And when you think about the type of individual, and I always want to go back to Derek Chauvin and what happened to George Floyd as we watched him. And I think that is a perfect symbol of American justice, because that's basically the way it works. But what's interesting about what happened in that incident was that Derek Chauvin does not just exist on police departments in patrol vehicles. Derek Chauvin exists in district attorney's offices. Derek Chauvin exists in juries. Derek Chauvin exists on the bench. And when I say just as judges, and in the prison system, in all facets of life, he is not an anomaly. He is very much the norm in our society. He is not an anomaly. A lot of people that have that type of, we saw what he did, putting the knee on the neck, and that kind of callous, diabolical mindset that he had. So that's that degree of just self-hatred. I don't want to say hatred against us and that they don't like us and they don't value us and they think we're less than. I don't buy it. And we have to stop buying that being the basis of what, makes these individuals do these type of terrible acts. They may have other individuals who, follow suit with it, because then we have to think when people, come into this country, they harness that same type of feelings towards African Americans that basically, the people in this country do. Though that segment of society do. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, it isn't limited to white people. There are other people that do the same thing. So, I mean, I just want to be honest when it comes to that. This is a human issue. This is a human problem, right? There are people around the world that treat people of color, specifically black people and people from Africa, the same way. You go to Saudi Arabia, they do the same thing. You know what I'm saying? You go to parts of Europe, you go to certain parts in Asia, you know, the same thing. Japanese people treat black people wrong. Chinese people have treated black people wrong. Korean people have treated black people wrong. And it's the same. And of course, in this country, it is basically stemmed by this whole idea of what is dubbed white supremacy, but it's a human problem. They've just mastered it in a way. But what makes it even worse in this country is the fact that this is the terrible thing, or the thing that really makes this crazy in this country, is that the African Americans built the country. That's the difference. You know, when you go and you think about the beginnings of this country, the uncompensated labor, the black men and women who went to every major war, every war we've ever had in this country, the ones who served just like the ones who were serving in the Capitol, the ones who put on the uniform and died fighting for this country. We're at the very essence of America would not be America without black people. Correct. That's the difference, right? You see what I'm saying? So, you know, we built this house. Black people built this house. Don't get it twisted. Without black people, there would not be an America. It wouldn't even exist. You cannot think of a time in American history that there was not black people, right? If you're talking about labor that was done with with black people, that was completely that's the reason why it's the richest country in the land. If imagine this, Mariah, can you imagine how rich I would be if I could have people working in my office for free? Right. Yeah. I would be the richest. You know what I'm saying? I'd love that. You know, they won't let me get away with it. Why can't I do that, Joe? Huh? They won't let me do it. So that's the thing that actually comes out in this situation, is that how can you do this when you see these individuals and you see the way that they're treating people and the double standard we have, and knowing that we were the ones that built this place. We built this piece. Right. Yep. And so, you know, and I think that's actually, in the final analysis, that's very much of what you're going to get out of what's happening in this whole idea. It's just basically a very, very much an example of what's going on when you have these individuals that are storming the Capitol. Had that been Black Lives Matter, every one of them would be dead. Right. Yep. Correct. There would not have been any questions asked. They treated them, I mean, can you imagine? They would have never even made it inside of the Capitol. They would have called not only the National Guard, they called the entire, you know, regular military. Yep. You see what I mean? So that's the double standard that we're living in, and unfortunately in our society, and that is an example of really what's going on with the justice system. The question is this. This is the challenge that we have. That's not going to change. I don't believe it's going to change, right? Huh? So, you know, they're going to say, dang, Zulu, you don't have no hope of anything. But no, it's not. So the question that we have to do is that when are we going to accept the fact that this is really what's happening in our justice system? And that as long as you allow them to keep their foot on your neck, they're going to keep putting their foot on your neck. So now what it is time for us to stop asking you to take your foot off your neck, and it's time for us to take your foot off our neck. Yeah. Exactly. Right? That's what we have to do. I'm not, you know, I don't think that we need to ask people to take a foot. If you got your foot on my neck, I'm going to take that foot off your neck. And until we get to a point where, you know, we begin to start saying, you know what, I'm not going to have it. I'm not going to beg you for my freedom. I'm going to take my freedom. Right? And that's just the way it's going to be. So that's what we need to do, is like, if you're not going to treat me as a human being, I have every right to make sure that you treat me as a human being and do whatever I need to make sure you treat me properly. We'll continue on the other side of the break.
Zach, we even have to ask that.
Payback! That is! Payback!
There's a new nationally syndicated radio program that's sweeping the nation, and you don't want to miss it. Justice Watch with attorney Zulu Ali, the voice of justice for the people. The focus of Justice Watch is to provide an honest analysis and viable solutions to the criminal and social justice crisis in America and the world from a black, brown, working class, and socially disadvantaged perspective, and to motivate listeners to be informed and part of the solution. Zulu Ali is joined by the Justice Crew, consisting of Rosa Nunez, Michael Clark, Dr. Akil Bashir, and Charito Ali to tackle the most pressing issues. Host attorney Zulu Ali is a former police officer, U.S. Marine Corps veteran, and an award-winning trial lawyer who focuses on representing persons accused of crimes, immigrants, victims of discrimination, and persons seeking civil justice. Find out how to listen to Justice Watch with attorney Zulu Ali at justicewatchradio.com. New Beam Pictures presents a CCM Films production documentary entitled Purpose and Freedom. Keep your hand on the plow. This emotional and strong documentary tells the story of African-American lawyer Zulu Ali seeking justice and his purpose as a lawyer while crossing paths with Araceli, an undocumented immigrant from Mexico who is seeking her freedom. Together, they help discover their purpose and freedom in each other. Watch this incredible film today from iTunes Movies, YouTube Movies, Amazon Prime, and Google Play Movies. Learn about the cast and crew, links to purchase, and more at purposeandfreedommovie.com. Purpose and Freedom. Keep your hand on the plow. Available now. Rated G.
I did not feel safe. That's why I decided to come to California, because I didn't feel safe in Mexico.
It's kind of like the system, and if you go outside the system, then it becomes a struggle.
Are you an immigrant seeking defense representation and are looking to protect your rights? Or maybe someone who is experiencing an injustice or discrimination and need a lawyer you can trust? Well, that's exactly why you need the help of award-winning trial lawyer Zulu Ali. The law offices of Zulu Ali provides immigration defense representation for those seeking justice and looking to protect their rights. If you or a loved one needs professional legal advice and representation, then contact Zulu Ali. Zulu Ali's firm focuses on criminal law, family law, civil and personal injury, and international law. Zulu Ali is a former police officer and U.S. Marine, so you know you're in good hands. Serving all of California and immigration cases nationwide, representing victims and suspects at the International Criminal Court at The Hague. Call Zulu Ali today at 888-682-3049 or visit ZuluAliLaw.com.
Welcome back to Justice Watch with attorney Zulu Ali and the Justice Watch crew, where we're continuing with our discussion on the Capitol insurrection. So I've been going at it for the first two segments. I mean, I can keep going because there's so many things that come to my mind. But I'm going to go to you, Bilal, and then I'm going to go to you, Rosa, and you can chime in, the real Mariah, after that.
Well, you know, it goes back to what you were saying in terms of the double standard, in terms of just how the overall system is just built or bred upon. And when you look at, and I'm going to pass you this picture, this is the response to the Black Lives Matter protests. It's just a picture. And if you Google it, the picture of the security alert during the time of the Black Lives Matter protests on the state capitol, and you can see just the response that they had during that time before the protest even began, as far as how they had, police and military people out in front of the state capitol in full fatigues and M16s and everything else. Mm-hmm. And, it goes to show how this double standard is just, it just is, and like you said, Zulu, it's going to always be that way until, you take that foot and force it off your neck. But also what it does is that it paints a bad picture of those individuals who dreamed about coming to a country that lives in a country that shows that the same thing that exists in their country also exists here. And so that dampens their dream about coming somewhere where they know that the same reality that they face in their country now that they would face here, even if they dreamed about coming here. But also it goes back to those countries that looked upon America as a superpower now don't look no longer as a superpower, because it shows how weak it seriously is that the citizens can breach the Capitol that easy. And it raised a lot of serious questions when it comes to everything that happened, but also the fact that how long it took to start bringing people accountable. And I think that security said it most, is that whenever you put out a hit on someone, you don't just go after the hit man, you go after the person who put the hit out itself. And so the chain of command, you have to go and you have to get to the root of the problem. And America has been known not to get to the root of the problem, always, watering things down. If you have a fruit, if you have a tree that constantly year after year bears bitter fruit over and over again, pretty soon you begins to think that the only way that you can get rid of that bitter fruit is you uproot that tree and plant a whole new tree all over again in order to get sweeter fruit. And in America, the only way you're going to be able to do that is you uproot this root of hatred and replant and rebuild. And we don't see that happening no time soon. And so the only alternative now is to, fight back, is to force that off of your neck. Because, I think it's very clear now for those who sit back and watch everything that happened from the Chauvin case, everything that happened, with the breach of the state capitol. If you can't see it now, you're going to continue to be these gullible people, and you're going to continue to accept this, and we're going to continue to be in the state that we in 10, 15, 20 years from now.
Mm-hmm. That's right. What about you, Rosa?
Yeah, I think, this whole hearing, the hearings themselves were very revealing of just the systematic issues and the kind of anti-Blackness norms that really pervade within our own society. It was important to note that this was labeled as an insurrection, right? Mm-hmm. It's not a riot, it's not a massacre, it's not a terrorist incident. It's not described with the same kind of harsh, punitive, and discriminative jargon that anything involving people of color is in this country. You talk about the Black Lives Matter movement, and yes, the way that they were portrayed, was demonic. And I think it also reveals that the system, when it comes to like the legislative system, really works for those who it was made to benefit. After these hearings, just a few hours after these hearings, the House convened and the Senate Appropriations Committee, they signed a legislation that said we're allocating $2.1 billion emergency supplemental funding bill to really kind of try to make up for the lack of Capitol security and the lack of security that is provided to our senators and Congress people. And I think that same sense of urgency is nowhere to be found when we have a George Floyd, when we have literally Black people being oppressed for hundreds of years in this country. Nobody talks about that, and nobody really kind of gives it a sense of urgency that it deserves, because we know that Black people in this country are oppressed, and sadly, we don't see an end to it.
Yeah.
What say you?
All right. Yeah. So you guys make a good point with bringing up that, if it was a person of color or, Black people that had stormed the Capitol and it wasn't, these white supremacy people, they wouldn't probably even gotten past the gates. Yeah. Rosa says, that sense of urgency would have been taken very differently if it was people of color. Right. And so it's just very sad that, it's taken even this long to try to find justice for those people that stormed the Capitol. Those are justice for us towards the people that stormed the Capitol. It's very sad.
Yeah, it's crazy, and it just again, the reaction to it is, as far as the people, and we continue to do the exact same thing when it comes to trying to address our problems and our issues, and it's all rhetoric. You know, for example, I mean, so you had these hearings. There is no, what are you having a hearing for? I mean, what is the purpose of the hearing? It's not, are you trying to prove something? I mean, we all know what actually happened. We had a president who incited a riot.
Correct.
And basically, you know, incited people to do terrorist acts. And these people went out and they did not do it. It wasn't a riot. It was an absolute terror. They attacked our country, and they should be treated the same way that they do. I think that if you are actually going out and you go into the Capitol and you threaten Capitol police officers and you go in and do what they did, I think that the punishment should be death.
Yep.
I think they should, they don't even, if this is real America, if this is America, then let's do what we do. And that is to, you know, there's people that are serving prison sentences for almost life for less. And now you know, we're always talking about how, look, let me tell you something that I can tell you that's absolutely 110% true about the Republican Party, specifically the conservative wing of the Republican Party. They are not patriots. There could be some people in that party that are patriots, right? I don't want to, you know, I can't say everybody that co-signs the conservative wing of it. But what we've morphed into, what we're standing for now, if you are a conservative, Republican, or whatever your political affiliation is, and you co-sign any of that, you support a person that would actually put a police officer and military in harm's way, then how can you be a patriot? If you're a Democrat and you support it, you're also not a patriot. You are a traitor. If we're going to play that game, right? If we're going to play this patriotic, you know, respect the flag, respect the country, honor God, honor country. If we're going to play that game, then let's play it the same way, regardless of who's dealing with it. But in the final analysis, what it does is it really reveals what we're really dealing with in this country. And we're dealing with people in this country who are just straight out bad people. And that's what we're dealing with. And so now when we're talking, and a lot of those people who stormed the Capitol are people who and supported are people who are in our justice system, who are sitting on benches, who are district attorneys, who are police officers. These are people that we have, and that's the reason why we have such a broken system. And the system is broken. It is absolutely broken. And these people, they don't even realize how bad they really are. You know what I mean? They can't even comprehend their evilness. You know, so how do you deal with that? And, you know, as I was talking about and it's okay. I mean, these people, it amazes me at my age at how evil people really are. It amazes me. That's the sad part, is that it's not a political system, because we just have evil people in our society. And how do you police up evil people? How do you deal with that? How can you police up when you're talking about a criminal justice system who is unfair at every level of the system? How do you deal with that? You know, and the whole point is there's always been a connection between white supremacy and the criminal justice system. The criminal justice system has always been the military arm of white supremacy. That's been, and we've always thought, well, let's just do something to try to change that. And basically, if you're trying to use, if you're trying to use that system to make changes, then unless you change the strategy as to how that system is utilized, then it's going to be the same thing. It's when we talk about we keep talking about the jury system. People say, you know, how can as a black man in America, you can have a fair trial with an all-white jury? That's not going to happen. It sounds racist, but it's true. That's not going to happen. Huh? I mean, and they know that. That's the reason why they do what they do. They shut you out of the system so you can't do nothing about it.
Yeah.
That has to change. Don't if you doing that, and what kind of judge allows that to happen?
Mm-hmm.
And that like they don't know it. Get out of here. And then you as a judge say you're not racist. Yeah, everybody has a bias. That's the reason. That's the problem. Is that you don't think so. But at any rate, please do not touch that dial. We'll be back on the other side of the break.
There's a new nationally syndicated radio program that's sweeping the nation, and you don't want to miss it. Justice Watch with attorney Zulu Ali, the voice of justice for the people. The focus of Justice Watch is to provide an honest analysis and viable solutions to the criminal and social justice crisis in America and the world from a black, brown, working class, and socially disadvantaged perspective, and to motivate listeners to be informed and part of the solution. Zulu Ali is joined by the Justice Crew, consisting of Rosa Nunez, Michael Clark, Dr. Akil Bashir, and Charito Ali to tackle the most pressing issues. Host Attorney Zulu Ali is a former police officer, U.S. Marine Corps veteran, and an award-winning trial lawyer who focuses on representing persons accused of crimes, immigrants, victims of discrimination, and persons seeking civil justice. Find out how to listen to Justice Watch with Attorney Zulu Ali at justicewatchradio.com. Nubian Pictures presents a CCM Films production documentary entitled Purpose and Freedom. Keep your hand on the plow. This emotional and strong documentary tells the story of African-American lawyer Zulu Ali seeking justice and his purpose as a lawyer while crossing paths with Araceli, an undocumented immigrant from Mexico who is seeking her freedom. Together, they help discover their purpose and freedom in each other. Watch this incredible film today from iTunes Movies, YouTube Movies, Amazon Prime, and Google Play Movies. Learn about the cast and crew, links to purchase, and more at purposeandfreedommovie.com. Purpose and Freedom. Keep your hand on the plow. Available now. Rated G.
I did not feel safe. That's why I decided to come to California, because I didn't feel safe in Mexico.
It's kind of like the system, and if you go outside the system, then it becomes a struggle.
Are you an immigrant seeking defense representation and are looking to protect your rights? Or maybe someone who is experiencing an injustice or discrimination and need a lawyer you can trust? Well, that's exactly why you need the help of award-winning trial lawyer Zulu Ali. The law offices of Zulu Ali provides immigration defense representation for those seeking justice and looking to protect their rights. If you or a loved one needs professional legal advice and representation, then contact Zulu Ali. Zulu Ali's firm focuses on criminal law, family law, civil and personal injury, and international law. Zulu Ali is a former police officer and U.S. Marine, so you know you're in good hands. Serving all of California and immigration cases nationwide, representing victims and suspects at the International Criminal Court at The Hague. Call Zulu Ali today at 888-682-3049 or visit ZuluAliLaw.com.
Welcome back to Justice Watch with attorney Zulu Ali and the Justice Watch crew, where we're continuing with our discussion on the Capitol insurrection, or I guess I should say, in light of our last segment, the Capitol terrorist attack, right?
Exactly.
I mean, that's what we should say we'll never forget, right?
Right.
I mean, because it's the same thing. I mean, and it's actually absolutely crazy. And I always, if you listen to every show, regardless of what your leanings are, if you have more of a Democratic leaning and you listen to the show, then I can sit here all day and we can talk about, what they did and how bad it was. I don't think that there's nothing that I can say on this show that's going to change anybody's mind one way or the other. And on the other side, it's the same thing. We can play it over and over and over in our head about what took place. But in the final analysis, at the end of the day, everybody's going to walk away with the same idea, whether you thought it was a terrible thing or whether you thought it was a good thing. I mean, it is what it is. And so that's where we are. So the question is, what is the motive? Is the motive from our perspective as being social commentators or maybe even people in the media and journalists? I know it's actually to give you information. That's what media and that's what journalists do. Journalists give you supposed to be objectively giving you information. I don't think that that's really what journalists do anymore, but that's what journalists are supposed to do, is just give you the facts about, take an objective and you hear two sides of a story. Then now we have commentators on both sides that are going to give their slant to everything that happens. This is our slant, and when you walk away, it may feel good because this is a voice, and I'm saying maybe some of the things you want to say by using this format and letting people know how we feel about this, right? Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, what do we really want at the end of this broadcast? What do we want to do, like we do in every show, is that we really want to not necessarily, encourage people or be a voice for people, but we also want to encourage people to do something about it, mm-hmm. to act, not to just stay in the same place. And what am I going to do? And the problem, the reason, then let's take some degree of accountability as to where we are as a society. The reason why there's been such a slow change is because we're fearful of the repercussions of doing something about mm-hmm. our situation. Yep. It's like, what am I going to lose? I can't talk, because if I talk, then maybe I'll lose something. I can't do certain acts because if I act, I may lose what I have. So everybody is in many ways still on a plantation, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, when you're on a plantation, if you run away from the plantation, then, it's going to be, you're not going to, as terrible as a plantation was, I mean, there were some things that people were still scared to leave the plantation. As terrible as the master was treating his people, they were still scared about, am I going to get caught? Am I going to eat? My family to feed? Am I going to have a place to live? Those things were going through their head, right? And in many ways, are you really free? If if speaking the truth is going to create an issue with your livelihood, with what you're having a place to sleep, having food to eat, taking care of your family. If you have to shut up and can't say anything because of that, then you're in the same place. Mm-hmm. You're in the same place. So, we have to, and we do know, like we talked about last week, when we have people in our community who speak up, you become a target.
Yep.
You know what I mean? They want to target you. They want to do whatever they can to try to destroy you, because in the final analysis, that's what they're really fearful of. They're fearful of your success. Your success is diametrically opposed to their culture. Your success as a African American man, as an African American woman, or an or a woman or man from a marginalized community, in many people's head, whether they realize it or not, is that your ability to be free and do the things you need to do and speak freely is diametrically opposed to their culture. Period.
Yeah.
And so that's the war. That's where we are. That's the problem that we have in our society. And at some point in time, we have to change the way we're dealing with, it's fine that you're using the political process to change things. It's fine that, you're trying to do things in a patriotic way. But at the same time, what makes me speaking up for Black people less patriotic than anybody else? Am I not a patriot because I'm speaking for people in this country? There's citizens in this country that are being not treated properly. And if you're a patriot, you wouldn't stand for it either.
Exactly.
Right.
If you know that there's people in your country in your country that are not being treated right, that are being treated bad, and that are being targeted by the government. I mean, and many people say, like, for example, you may be a district attorney or a police officer that's sitting at home and says, "Hey, wait a minute, Zulu, I'm not going out here doing anything to people. I'm not doing anything bad to any other person. I'm not doing anything bad to whatever. I don't see this." Right? Mm-hmm. But you're still culpable because your fellow citizens are telling you what's going on.
Yep.
You see what's happening, and you're not doing anything about it.
Yep. Your wool is still over your eyes.
Absolutely, and that makes you culpable for what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm saying. The racism is overt, covert, and unintentional, but they all have the same result. So, to those people who are don't harness that same type of attitude as those people who were storming the Capitol, think about that. Think about, let me tell you this. This is what trips me out, and this is what I can tell you. That if the government targeted anybody in a way that is unjust, inhumane, and wrong, I'm going to have a problem with it. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So and I think that many of people in our community feel the same way, because every time we do a march, we include everybody.
Yep.
Yeah.
Every time we talk about, do you hear people who are marching say it's just for black people? They always say black, brown, and marginalized people. We always say that.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
But do they always say that for us?
Nope.
You see what I'm saying? So that's the whole point. Or either whether you're talking about whoever, whatever color you are, the fact that you would stand by and allow this unjust system to continue, and you know what's going on, right? You know what's happening. You know people are being treated unjustly. You know people are being treated wrong. And then you're saying, just as long as I'm cool, I'm cool. I'm not worried about the way. And if you're a DA, you're going to tell me you don't know that people are being unjust or being treated unjustly. You're a police officer and you live in this country, and if you say that, that makes you even worse. That makes you worse than a person who's doing it, because you know what's happening and you're not doing anything about it. Right? If you really are about patriotism, you're really about helping people, then help anybody. Don't just say, well, I'm Korean, I'm only going to help Korean people, or I'm Pakistani, I'm only going to help Pakistani people. But then when you get into something and black folks, and you can wrap your situation around our situation. I'm sick of that. I should have let you guys talk more, but I had a lot to say. Right?
I think you covered it.
Okay. But anyway, okay. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll see you next week, same time, same place, same channel. And until that time, stay blessed.
Hey, back.